Hi, my name is Emily Rothrock. I am a software engineer here at Microsoft, and I am also a University of Virginia alumni.
Hi, I'm Shivani Sundaresan. I'm a University of Michigan Ann Arbor alumni, and I'm also a software engineer at Microsoft. Today, we're going to be talking about context. Context is everything Copilot needs for your current task. It includes your prompt, the conversation so far, any files that it's reading in your project, and also any saved project instructions. Copilot processes that information in units called tokens. Tokens can either be a whole word, a part of a sentence, and even a piece of code. You can view your context by typing out \context in your Copilot chat interface. So think of your context window as a suitcase and the tokens as individual items that are getting put into that suitcase. And your suitcase does have limited space. So in this case, your context window is 400K tokens. So too little relevant context can make Copilot ask questions or make assumptions about what you want it to do. And too much context can fill up the context window and include information that doesn't help you accomplish your task. So when you're packing your suitcase, doing it efficiently helps you avoid needing an additional suitcase. So our goal isn't to give Copilot the most amount of context possible. It is to give it the smallest amount of information for it to accomplish its task.
And today we're going to teach you how to do that. So I have a fresh chat here. We are using artifacts from episode 4. So we don't have any context from any of the previous episodes, anything that was done or changed, any type of file history, just the finished artifacts from the last episode so that we can see what happens when we don't have much context in our window. So we are in the GitHub Copilot app. I am giving it a prompt to create a case study page for this campus recycling project. But I'm not going to tell Copilot what that project is. I'm not telling it what I want. It has pretty much no context. And we're going to, aside from the artifacts that existed from episode 4, and we're going to see what it generates. I'm also going to prompt Copilot to open this in a Canvas session so that we can see exactly what happened now that the prompt has finished. Cool. We can see that Copilot generated a pretty basic website, but it did manage to pick out spring 2025 from the resume that we had included in the episode 4 folder for our context. You can see that it found this information, so it was able to populate that, but for the most part, it kind of came up with its own information, and it's all very generic. And so that's what happens when you don't give Copilot very much context.
To include more context about our project, I'm going to first copy and paste some files about my project into our episode 4 session. So we have a markdown file, some PowerPoints about my project, a CSV about the data collected by this project, and also a research paper. So now that we've added additional files into our episode 4 context, we want to actually tell Copilot that this context has been updated. And the way we do that is by running \init. So once you run \init, it's going to come up with a copilot-instructions.md, which is a file that lives within your session that tells Copilot about more information about the project, what files to read, and who your audience is.
Cool. Now that the prompt has finished, we're going to create a new session and do the same prompt to show the difference of having context versus not having context. All right, we have a fresh chat. We're going to ask Copilot the same prompt, except this time we are also going to tell it that it has extra context about the campus recycling project. Now that it's done, let's open in Canvas. And this time around, we can see that it referenced data, added more sections, gave us the results that we had. And so we have a much better page. Oh, we even got graphs. So we have a much better page now that we've given it context to include versus just letting it create whatever.
While you're working on a task, you can either choose to stay on your same session or create a new one. So in this example, Emily created a new session because the information from her old session was mostly irrelevant since we wanted to create the same page again with updated information. So as mentioned earlier, you can view your current context by clicking on \context. So when you run that on this new session with our updated data, you can see that the context increased from 7% to 13%, and this is because of the additional files that we added. So in addition to files, other things that can increase your context are tool calls or anything else that you add within that session. So it's usually recommended to start a fresh session when your task changes or the old information is mostly irrelevant. You can also use \compact in order to summarize your current conversation into a paragraph, which would reduce the number of tokens used within your session. So when you run \compact, it will summarize your current session into a paragraph, and that would be your new context window going forward.
And if you see now, after we compacted, we're down from 13% to 8% of our total context used.
To recap, today we learned about context and tokens and how to optimize your token usage to give Copilot the correct amount of information.
As a quick reminder, all the artifacts for today's session are linked in the description. Thank you.